Welcome to the FEMolution Podcast. This isn't another finance show about hustling harder, chasing revenue, or glorifying burnout. And it's definitely not another conversation about chasing profit at any cost. This is where we dismantle the systems that told you you had to make more money before you were allowed to protect it. Because at Fem Solutions, we believe in something radically different. Protection comes first, and profit naturally follows. Because real financial power isn't about being rich, it's about being resourced. And on this podcast, we're redefining what financial freedom actually means. And it is not a destination reserved for the wealthy, but it's a daily practice available at any income level when you understand how to manage, protect, and optimize what you already have. We talk about building financial ecosystems, not just profitable businesses, about securing your infrastructure before you scale your income, and creating systems that protect your cash flow, your peace, and your future. You'll hear conversations rooted in FEM's core philosophy: protection first, not profit first, and strong money that supports a soft life, and freedom that's measured by resources, not status. And last but definitely not least, impact that extends beyond your bank account. Because FEM is not here to follow the industry standards. We're here to set a new one. Because we don't just serve clients, we empower change makers. And this podcast is part of that movement. It's part of our empowering process. So if you know your brilliance deserves better support, if you're done building income without infrastructure, and you're ready to stop leaking money, energy, and peace, then you're in the right place. This is the FEMolution Podcast, where we teach you how to do money the Fem way. Most founders think stability means revenue went up, so I'm good, right? But in reality, revenue can rise while your nervous system stays on red alert, thinking it's fires everywhere that you need to put out, right? Because stability is not a number. Stability is a condition, okay? It's the moment your business stops forcing you to brace for impact every time something shifts, right? So whether that's a client paying late, it's something happening with your platform where it glitched, or you have to suddenly change softwares or apps mid whatever you're doing, right? It's a family need that comes up that's urgent, a surprise expense, a slow week, a tax notice, a mess with a vendor. The list goes on, okay? But you know what a shift is at this point, right? So something unexpected happens. So stability is not more money. Stability is less fragility. All right. And in 4S FEMFlow Framework, stability is the second layer for a reason. Survival keeps you from collapsing and makes sure everything continues operating the way it's supposed to, right? But stability keeps you from being whiplashed. And we gonna talk about it, all right? So today, of course, we're talking about stability, but we're talking about it the Fem way, all right? Protection first, capacity aware, and built for founders who are done living inside of financial chaos and running their business off adrenaline. Okay, so welcome to the FEMolution. Now, let me ask you a question. If your revenue disappeared for 30 days, would you be A, inconvenienced, or B, would your entire life start sliding? Would it collapse? Would there be fires everywhere that you need to put out? And the answer to that question isn't about how successful you are, right? It's about how stable your system is, your current one, okay? Not the ideal one, the one you're actually running right now, the one that you're operating from, okay? Because there's founders out here doing 30K months, all right, who still can't exhale. And then you got founders out here who are doing like 5K months or 8K months, right? And they sleep like a baby. The difference is architecture or their financial infrastructure, if we want to be more specific, okay, which we do. So we're going to say the difference is their infrastructure and their financial system, all right, because stability is not the absence of problems, all right? It's the absence of panic. So stability is the layer of the 4S FEMFlow that turns cash flow from emotional into operational. It's what allows you to make decisions from direction instead of urgency and reaction, right? So think of stability as your shock absorber, right? It's going to absorb shocks in your bank structure, in your payment timing, in your obligations, meaning the things you must pay, all the things that you figured out fall into survival, okay? And in your ability to recover from that sudden shift, sudden change, right? Without going into a spiral. Okay, so if survival answers, can we keep the lights on, basically, right? Stability answers, can we handle disruption without losing ourselves in the process and everything we work towards? Make sense? Okay. So, most business finance conversations treat stability like a vibe, okay? For lack of a better word. All right. They say just be consistent, just budget better, just get more clients, just raise your prices. Your prices. Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. But we don't teach just, okay? Because just ignores the actual issue. Most founders aren't unstable because they're irresponsible. They're unstable because their money has no containment, okay? And it has no buffer, right? So money enters the business. This is what this looks like, all right? And immediately gets assigned to emotion, right? So fear, guilt, urgency, hope, overcompensation, that thought that I need to catch up, or let me handle this while I can, while I have the extra money, right? Or, oh my God, I'm so behind. Or, oh, I can't breathe. I just, there's too much on my shoulders right now. All that is emotional, right? So stability isn't a mindset reset that you need to do, right? It's a containment system that protects your decision making. So rather than making decisions from emotion, you make them from strategy. Rather than reacting, you're directing. Does that make sense? Are you following me? Okay. So that being said, there are two. We'll just say two for now, okay? Because we're not going deep into this. We're just giving you the concept, okay? So there's two instability problems that founders tend to mix up, okay? Number one is cash flow instability. And this is mathematical, right? It's all about the numbers. It's mathematical, but it's also timing, still a number, right? Validity, meaning like if your income's going up or down, seasonality has to do with numbers. What time of year is it, right? Inconsistent inflow, meaning money's coming in, it's just inconsistent when it does, right? Lumpy revenue, meaning you get chunks here and bits and pieces here, right? And honestly, the thing I need you to understand that even a healthy business, okay, can have cash flow instability if the money arrives unpredictably and that's not planned for, okay? So that's one problem that gets mixed up, right? The second one is system inability, okay? And this one is more structural, Okay. Money arrives, but it doesn't have rules. So every dollar gets renegotiated every week or every time that it comes in, right? That's when you have the whole who do I pay first Olympics, right? And you literally will start transferring money between your accounts like it's a daily sport and you trying to get the high score. Okay. It's random Zelle refunds, overdrafts, and those I forgot fees, right? That's what we just gonna call it. It's reactivity at its core, disguised as management. That's a big one. So you can fix cash flow instability with better timing, offers, and a receivable strategy, right? But here's how you fix system instability with infrastructure. Point blank, period, right? You have accounts, you have rules, you have automations, okay? And you have protection buffers. So again, stability is not a motivation issue or a mindset issue. Stability is a design issue, okay? It's a system issue. So let me tell you what stability actually looks like in FEM, okay? Stability is when your bills are paid without requiring a weekly crisis meeting with yourself. Okay. Payroll does not feel like a jump scare moment in a scary movie. Okay. You can handle a late client payment without turning into a completely different person, right? And you don't need to have a huge month to feel safe. Your business can take a hit and still stay standing. Think of, okay, I'm gonna give you an example because clearly I'm in the mood to be goofy today, right? So when I say your business can take a hit and still keep standing, think of those like, they're not boppets, but they're like those inflatable blow up things that, like if you punch it, it just bounces right back to you. That's what I mean when your business can take a hit, but it's still standing because you can punch that thing as hard as you want to, but it doesn't stay down. Like it literally bounces right back up. Like nothing happened. And sometimes it might hit you. You feel me? So, not that we want your business to hit you when it bounces back. I'm just saying it's a visual reference, right? Because I'm a visual person. So, of course, I'm going to give you one that I think we can relate to, right? Everyone can relate to. And that is, at least mildly amusing. But here's the line that founders need tattooed on the inside of their forehead. Okay. That way you can see it. When I say tattooed, I just mean like you need to permanently get this part through your head. All right. Stability is not about preventing disruptions. Okay. It's about reducing the consequences of disruptions. Do you need me to say it again? Stability is not about preventing disruptions. It's about reducing the consequences of those disruptions. Okay. So that's simply because, let's get this clear, disruptions are normal. It's part of the process. It's everyday life, right? And life is normal. It has its ups and downs, right? Kids get sick, cars need tires or brakes, clients delay, your algorithm shifts. Facebook and Instagram love to shift the algorithm on us. Am I right? Your energy changes depending on, the time of day, right? Your capacity fluctuates. Sometimes you have a higher capacity, other times your capacity and your tolerance for shit, pardon my language, is very low. Okay, so a stable business does not pretend that those things ain't gonna happen. Okay, it's built like they will, meaning it plans for them. That's the whole point of stability. Okay, so we're going to talk about the stability misdiagnosis that keeps founders stuck. That's what we're going to next, okay? Because again, most founders think that the issue is income. So they start chasing growth as stabilization. Don't do that, okay? Because growth without stability is like adding weight to a chair with loose screws, right? It looks impressive until it doesn't. So, oh my God, the chair held so much. And the next thing you know, the chair broke and now you need a new chair, right? Okay, so this is why you can't out earn stability, okay? You can earn more and still be fragile because remember, stability is not about more money, it's about less fragility, okay? Because the pain of stability is not the amount, okay? It's the lack of protection, if we're being 100% honest, all right? And this is where FEM is 100% unapologetic, okay? If your system requires your nervous system to stay activated to function, then your system is not stable. That's not leadership, that's survival on autopilot. Okay? Thank you. So, that being said, now we're going to talk about how stability is shock absorption, right? Not savings. Okay? Most founders, they hear buffer and they automatically think savings. All right. But stability is not savings. Savings has a different purpose inside the 4S FEMFlow framework. We'll get to that, but I just want to remind you of that right now. Okay. We're reframing. It's stability. Okay. Savings is layer 4. That's where we talk about optionality, your future vision, expansion, leverage, choices, right? Stability is layer 2, which is shock absorption for now. Okay. Stability buffers are not glamorous. They don't exist for you to flex. Okay. They exist so you don't collapse when normal life happens or when normal business changes happen. Okay. Stability is the difference between this is annoying and this is catastrophic, right? Dramatic. Yes, I know I was being dramatic. Okay. It's the difference between we'll adjust and keep moving and we're done. We can't continue. That's it. This is the end. Bye-bye. Do you get it now? Hopefully you do. Okay. So now I'm gonna give you the philosophical part, okay? Because I love to be philosophical. But mostly because FEM does not separate money from the body, okay? They actually work together. So we talk about nervous system finance here inside of FEM, okay? So here's what that looks like. Your nervous system reads your cash flow like it reads the weather, okay? You know those people who every time their knee starts hurting, they know it's gonna rain, right? They can sense what's gonna happen with the weather depending on how they feel in their body. You can get that way when it comes to your money, okay? So if cash flow equals chaos, meaning, you're in panic all the time, your system's on red alert, everything's a 5-alarm fire, right? I don't know if that's the right number, but I'm not a firefighter, but you get what I'm saying. Okay. Your body learns these things, right? We're not safe. We have to rush. We need to overwork, overcompensate. We have to hoard, keep as much as we can, right? We must control everything that's going on. All right. And then they shame themselves for reacting, even though they built a system and, this ecosystem where they're in constant reaction mode. Now they're shaming themselves for being that way. All right. But it's a system that you trained to react. Yeah, you trained your system. Okay. So think of it like this. Okay. So that was the over dramatic version. Okay. But stability is the moment your money stops being a threat. Okay. It becomes a tool again. It becomes neutral. It becomes directional, meaning it's something that you're directing versus reacting to. Okay. You're becoming proactive versus reactive as well. And when your money is neutral, your intelligence comes back online. Why do I say your intelligence comes back online? Think about every scary movie you have ever watched. Okay. What is the one thing that always happens and we as the audience are like, you're dumb, right? Oh my God, that was so dumb. How could you do that? They're running from the killer and they magically trip over nothing and fall down and now they caught. I know you can relate to that one because even I be in there like, oh, what was you thinking? What did you trip on? Like, what? Nah, 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 nah. Or the killers in the room that they proceed to walk into, right? And you're like, no, you're screaming, like, no, don't go in there. He gonna get you. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So just think of it like that, right? In a scary movie, when you're operating off of fear and panic and adrenaline, you can make some stupid decisions, right? Your intelligence and your survival instincts might go out the window, depending, right? That's why I say your intelligence comes back online. But that's also why stability creates better decisions even before your revenue grows. Okay. So if you already have a plan for what you're going to do if a serial killer starts chasing you down the street, or if Michael Myers come out the woodworks with that knife and he about to knife you, if you have a plan for what you're going to do, you're not going to be reacting and going off adrenaline in that moment. You're going to get away, but you're going to get away safely without tripping or without walking directly into the knife, right? All right. So, and that's simply because I'm bringing this home, I promise. That's simply because the founder, i.e., you, is no longer operating from a bracing perspective or a bracing stance, right? They're not operating from panic, from stress, from adrenaline. All right. So that being said, I know today was a goofy one, but hopefully you still got the point and I didn't distract you too much from it. Sometimes, we just need to make things light. And then it lands better, right? Okay. So that being said, now that you understand what stability does, right? It's your shock absorber. Okay. It's what keeps things running, even if something changes and it's unexpected. All right. I want you to sit with 3 questions for this next week. Okay. These are not just going to be tasks. Okay. I don't want you to sit with them as tasks. I want you to sit with them as truth tellers. Okay, meaning they're going to tell you the truth. So I'm going to give you the questions. All right. It's not homework. It's just for you to reflect to get your creative juices flowing and make sure your intelligence is online. Okay. Number 1, where does my business currently require adrenaline to function? In other words, what only gets handled when I'm pressured, scared, or scrambling? That's number 1. Number 2, what disruption would most quickly create panic inside my current system? Some examples. Okay, I'll give you examples. A late client payment, right? A slow week where you didn't really get any money in like you were supposed to. A refund requested by a client or customer. A surprise expense. Those are just some examples, okay? But the idea is for you to figure out, okay, what would be the thing that would quickly switch me from being cool to being panicked? All right? What has to happen for me to become the girl who trips while running away from the killer? All right. And number 3, if stability means less fragility, okay, what would be the first weak point that I would have to reinforce? Okay. Not everything, just the first structural crack. Meaning, if I want my system and my money to be less fragile, what do I need to reinforce? What needs to be fixed? And we're not talking about everything, just the first thing that you notice. Okay. So no shame during this, no over analysis. Don't start, thinking about it way too much to where you're obsessing. Just be honest with yourself. Okay. Because stability does not come from you being better. All right. It comes from your system becoming safer. Okay. So think about it like this. Stability is the quiet upgrade that nobody really celebrates. but it changes everything. Okay. It's the layer that makes your growth sustainable. You cannot get stable by growing. You need to be stable before you grow. Okay. It's the layer that makes your leadership feel like leadership. And it's the layer that gives you back your brain. Okay. We're just going to put that out there. So once stability exists, something powerful, becomes possible. And that's self-care. Now, you should be doing self-care no matter what, okay? But because self-care is next week and it's a third layer, right? That's why I put that in there. So I don't want you to think about self-care where I'm talking about bubble baths and spa days, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about self-care as asset protection. Because remember, you are the most valuable asset in your company and you protect your assets at all costs, okay? Um So let's consider self-care recovery that's built into the business. Okay. That's where we're going next, but that's next week, not this week. All right. So I'm going to leave you with this and I promise I'm going to let you go. Okay. If this episode reframes stability for you, if you actually felt the difference between more money and less fragility, then go ahead and follow the FEMolution podcast on Spotify. Follow us on YouTube, right? Like our page, subscribe, turn on your notifications because we don't give you content for motivation, okay? That's not what this is. This is not content for motivation or to be funny, right? I'm actually giving y'all the real, but also I'm giving you financial infrastructure. I'm giving you architecture for the founders who demand more autonomy, optionality, and a business that doesn't require panic or pressure to operate sustainably. Okay. So go ahead, follow the show here on Spotify, or if you're watching on YouTube, like I said, like the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, or like this video, subscribe and turn on notifications, right? Yeah. I think my brain needs to come back online. But thank you so much for listening. And hopefully this was helpful. If you found it helpful, feel free to let me know. I promise I'll respond if you comment below this video. And I will see you next week when we go into the next layer of self-care. Okay? Bye.